Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Today's story is one that you may have heard the first part before on this channel, but now we've got the final update, so let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Sister Grounded Throwaway. Am I the a-hole for grounding my adult sister? I, 25 female, live in a 3-bedroom apartment with my fiance, 27 male. We have a 6-month-old son. My younger sister, Mia, fake name, 20 female, recently started attending a university that's closer to where I live than both my parents' places. Because she needs to get to class early in the morning, my fiance and I allowed her to move into our spare bedroom. She's been living with us since January. There's a set of rules I've been having Mia follow since she moved in, mostly to make sure everyone can live peacefully. One of the most important rules concerns arriving after my son's bedtime, usually between 7 and 8 p.m. Mia is allowed to come home however late she wants, as long as she doesn't make too much noise. The door to the apartment has an electric keypad lock, and the one we use also has a normal lock under it. Everyone has a copy of the key, but we all prefer typing in the password. However, the keypad is very noisy and my son's nursery isn't far from the door. Every time the keypad is used after I've put the baby to sleep, he wakes up. So naturally, the rule about getting home late includes not using the keypad. Everyone, including Mia, has known about this since day one. At first we had no problems, but now that Mia has gotten used to the college life, she's been going out at night frequently. This past month, she has arrived home after midnight every Friday and Saturday night. She always forgets the "don't make too much noise" rule, and she has on multiple occasions used the keypad. My son wakes up crying every damn time. I'd sit her down and remind her of the rule whenever this happened, but she'd continue to do it. My fiance and I got tired of putting our baby back to sleep because of that, so I changed the password and told Mia she was no longer allowed to use the keypad. She agreed and promised to try to make less noise. On Friday night this week, Mia went out with her friends. She came home very drunk at 4 a.m. and forgot that I changed the password. Not only did she use the keypad, but she also got the password wrong so many times that she triggered the alarm. I was furious. Not only did my baby wake up crying, but I also got complaints from my neighbors. The next morning, I told Mia that I'm establishing a curfew. While living with me, she needs to be home by 8 p.m. She won't be allowed to go out at night for the rest of the semester. Mia put up a fight, saying I have no right to ground her. Edit, I never used that word, like this, or dictate what she does with her free time. But I held my ground. I told her she'll be free to do as she pleases when she has her own place and raises her own family. While living with me, she has to do as I say. She told our parents about this. Our mother and stepfather are both on our side. Our father is on Mia's. He's saying I'm not her mother and I have no right to treat her like a child. He also thinks it's unfair to do this to her over a drunken mistake. Am I the a-hole? Well, in my opinion, no, you're not the a-hole. It is your house and you're doing your sister a favor, because if she were to live with your mom and your stepdad, maybe she'd need to commute for a long time before getting to college. I understand that she wants to live the college experience, but she doesn't get to do it at the expense of your sleep, or your baby's sleep for that matter. If I was in your shoes, I'd present Mia with 3 choices. 1, you can move back with mom and stepdad. 2, you abide by the rules of my house. Or 3, if you want to stay out past 8 p.m., then you find somewhere else to stay, maybe with one of your party friends, and make sure to do it in time, because if you can't, then you gotta be home by 8. And if she doesn't like any of the choices, well, tough luck. Maybe she can talk to her dad so he can pay for an apartment, or she could get a job and pay for it herself. And what do you guys think? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Punta Cana 24 says, not the a-hole. I admit it does sound like a bit of a power trip to ground your adult sister, but it is well within your rights to enforce rules when you are allowing your sister to live there apparently for free. If she wants full freedom to do whatever she wants, she can always rent her own place. If she's in college, she's definitely old enough to have some responsibility. Tough Dentist 7786 says, not the a-hole, though grounding a 20-year-old is not really a thing. I think since she can't seem to function normally when she drinks, on those nights, she just needs to crash at a friend's place. I think next semester she should get a house with some friends. She would just have a much better experience her last 2 years of school. And friend Lily says, not the a-hole, and you've given her way more chances than I would have. I would tell her that if she wakes the baby up one more time, she's out. I can't imagine how annoyed your husband must be that you keep letting your adult sister act like an entitled 16-year-old. And Opie responds, my fiancé is actually the reason I've been giving her this many chances. A big reason why I'm establishing the curfew now is because the situation has gotten bad enough that even he's sick of it. Additional information from Opie's comments. The solution is for her to listen to me and use her normal key. The keypad is only a problem when Mia uses it late at night. No one else does that. It wouldn't be worth spending money to buy a new lock or keypad. And it wasn't just her using the door. She was being noisy in general. The door was just the loudest part. Slamming the door, knocking stuff over, etc. Yes, the keypad is there to be used, but not while my child is asleep. Also, we're not in the US. Drinking is legal from 18 and there is no dorm situation. She is living here for free, but only for now. The deal is for her to start paying a small portion of rent once she gets a job. But honestly, I don't need her to pay me right now. My father still gives her some money for personal expenses, so I'm not spending too much on her. Finally, moving my son from the nursery that I lovingly prepared while pregnant to the room my sister has been messing up since January would require time, effort, and patience, none of which I have for this situation. I have a baby and a job, as does my fiancé, and I'm 99.9% sure my sister wouldn't help us. I'm making enough effort as it is, and I refused to do something like this when she can easily just use her key. As for crashing somewhere else, I have suggested it before. There's always a reason why she can't do it. So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, but they did give OP a lot of suggestions, and OP gave us some context regarding that. Now, OP has given us 2 updates, so let's move on to the first one to see what happened next. It's very hard to explain my relationship with my younger sister in proper detail, but I will say that while I love her dearly, Mia has always been a very inconsiderate person. I have countless examples. She almost didn't attend our cousin's wedding last year because she didn't want to walk to the venue, which was 2 blocks away from our mom's place. We shared a bathroom when we were younger, and she'd insist on having the top drawers because she didn't want to crouch down, but she was cool with me doing so. She slept through my college graduation and didn't apologize for it. I'm bringing this up now because whenever I asked Mia why she kept forgetting to use her key, her excuse was that looking through her bag took too long and the keypad was quicker. In her head, bothering other people is better than slightly inconveniencing herself. After I established the curfew, Mia tried different ways to make me change my mind. She'd talk about not being able to cancel her tickets for Party X, or about the fun her friends had at Party Y. She'd show me her developing LinkedIn profile and tell me she had learned her lesson and would be more responsible. At first, I really didn't want to have to kick her out, which many of you suggested, but I have limits. A few days ago, I heard her complaining to her friends on the phone about her bitch of a sister who wouldn't let her do anything. Later that day, I asked her which of our parents she planned on moving in with. Cue more fighting. I managed to tell her that I had no obligation to continue housing her for free if she couldn't respect my family. Mia could either move back in with our parents or continue living with me for the low price of respecting my infant son and stop complaining about it. We did have a very productive conversation afterwards. I managed to get a lot off my chest, as did my sister. Mia apologized for everything. She admitted she'd been selfish, promised she'd make efforts to change and mature. I'm a strong believer that people can change, which is why I'm not kicking her out right now. But I made it very clear that Mia is on thin ice, and the next time she does anything like this will be the last time she ever sees the inside of my home. The curfew will continue until the end of the semester as originally planned. My father also agreed to pay for Mia to go back to therapy. It helped her a lot when she was younger, so I'm hopeful about the future of this living situation. I also want to thank those who suggested a white noise machine. My son is not a light sleeper, the keypad is just very loud and startles him awake, but my fiancé and I are still looking into getting one. Anything that helps our baby sleep better is welcome. Thank you, Reddit. Alright, well, so far it sounds like a positive update, so now let's move on to the final update to see how this story ends. Okay, you guys called it. It's been 5 months since my last update, and a little under a month ago, my fiancé and I kicked Mia out of my apartment. This actually had very little to do with the keypad thing. After my last post, things were relatively peaceful for a while, and then June came and Mia decided to go back to her old ways. At first, it was just the run-of-the-mill entitlement. She started taking my stuff without permission, whining whenever my baby cried and complaining about having to do everything. Literally just her own laundry. All of that was more annoying than unbearable, so I'd just take my stuff back and let her clothes stink. Then, early in September, Mia went on a holiday beach trip with her friends. The day after she left, I noticed my diaper bag and one of my son's blankets were missing. Both were expensive gifts my friends gave me for my baby shower. I checked every room in the apartment and found all of the items that had been in the diaper bag dumped on Mia's bed. She had emptied the bag to use it as extra luggage. The blanket was in a separate pocket, so she took it by mistake. Later, when I got them back, they were both dirty and sandy. I called Mia as soon as I found the items. Her reasoning for taking the diaper bag was that she didn't want to empty her school bag and her computer wouldn't fit anywhere else. She also called me dramatic when I told her to apologize. That's when I kicked her out. I told her that once she got back, she'd have 1 week to grab her things and move back to either of our parents' places. My sister spent the rest of her trip trying to convince me otherwise. She also tried to get my parents on her side. My mom told her she'd brought it on herself. My father did try to convince me to be nice, but I told him I already had been. Mia tried to pick a fight about it when she got back from her trip, but I didn't budge. She moved out officially a couple weeks ago. My mom is making her save money so she can pay me back for the almost 8 months of rent she owes me. To be honest, I'm writing this mostly to vent. Being an older sister is exhausting. The house is always on fire, but you can never be the one freaking out. You're like a second mother, but not an actual parent, so your younger sibling feels no need to respect you. At least that was my experience growing up. My mom is fantastic, but she still acknowledges that I was basically Mia's third parent. My father was a good dad, but a mediocre parent, and he refuses to understand that. He also doesn't accept that after the divorce, I was more responsible for Mia than he was. I love my sister dearly, but she's always treated me as an afterthought. For a few years, she'd contact me almost exclusively when she needed a ride. I'd spent a crap ton of money on presents. She'd give me a $2 gift 2 months after my actual birthday. This happened 3 separate times, including this year. The list goes on. It always felt like I was the last thing on her mind. I'm not saying I was perfect, but I was always there for her. I will always love my sister, and I do believe she loves me too. But I also understand she's too selfish to realize she treats me poorly. I have to focus on my son, and I can't put up with Mia's immaturity right now. Do I regret letting her move in with me? No. Do I regret not kicking her out back in May? Also no. To be honest, I think I needed that. Knowing I tried has always helped me sleep at night. Plus, living with Mia wasn't all bad. Accompanying the Drake-Kendrick Lamar feud with her was pretty fun, at first at least. My sister and I are on speaking terms. She was pissed at first, but got over it once she realized that literally no one was really taking her side. She's back to transitioning between our parents' places every week. I don't miss that lifestyle. Mia hates it, as it takes her longer to get to her classes every morning. She's apologized, but I'm not letting her move back in with me. My son's turning 1 in a couple of weeks. Mia is invited to his birthday party, but I'm not expecting her to show up. My fiancé and I are getting married in a little under a year, and she's invited to that too. I hope my sister can learn to be more considerate and that we can improve our relationship someday, but I'm done being the only one putting in the effort. This will be my final post. Thank you, Reddit. Well, Opie, it had to be done, and apparently Mia's okay with it. She just needs to work a little harder to get to college. Now, I have to say, I don't agree with you in saying that an older sibling is like a third parent. And if you were raised to believe that, I'm really sorry, because you shouldn't be responsible for your siblings. You are an equal. Of course, this is not your fault. It's how your parents brought you up, and I disagree with that. In any case, Opie, here's wishing you guys the best. A happy birthday to your little one, and hopefully your wedding is amazing. Take care, and thanks for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user MinervaJB. You want me to escalate a claim? Sure. I used to work on the retentions department of an ISP back in the day. While many people called genuinely wanting to cancel their phone service, just as many knew that retentions was more than that. The ISP, let's call them Red Phone, had two different departments. I worked on Retentions 1, where we did a lot of fixing bills and offering small discounts and slightly cheaper phones to customers who said they wanted to leave. Retentions 2 was for customers who were in the process of porting their numbers, and the worst thing they offered was a 50% discount for a couple of years with a decent phone for free. This happened roughly 10, maybe 12 years ago when roaming was straight up highway robbery. Let me introduce you to the executive. I got the call, I did my little introductory spiel, and I immediately discovered this guy was the most entitled piece of crap I'd ever had the displeasure to speak to. He said he was a very important executive who traveled a lot for work, but the bill he got was ridiculous and I had to solve it or he was going to cancel his service. I muted him, so he heard nothing, but I could still hear what he said, and while I checked his account, I could hear him gloat to his girlfriend that he's getting the bill credited because he knows how to play the system, and he was an a-hole, but he wasn't wrong. This guy was a pro at playing Red Phone. He had the highest phone plan the company offered, which was around €90 at the time of the line, but paid $30 per month because he had discounts from both departments stacked on top of each other. His plan allowed him to get what at the time was a super expensive phone for basically nothing at Retentions 2. He'd gotten the super shiny customer status and the super shiny customer service line despite his €30 plan because he complained about how the delocalized customer service sucked. He was also not wrong about his bill being ridiculous. He'd visited several EU countries, got a €600 bill called customer service, and said he had not known that roaming was so expensive. No one warned him when he told us he was traveling overseas. The company had a policy that the first time a customer complained about something, we could refund them, particularly if the complaint was that the customer had not been informed about extra charges. So, the rep informed him about roaming costs and refunded him all of the roaming charges, leaving the bill at €30. Second month comes around, he kept using the phone overseas, got a €1,500 bill. He calls customer service, they tell him they can't refund him again. He says he wants to cancel his account then and gets transferred to me. He was demanding that we credited his roaming charges again because if we can do it once, we can do it again. He also said roaming prices were abusive. He did have a point there. However, I told him I couldn't do that, so he wanted me to open a claim and escalate it. I refused again because there was no one to escalate to. He wasn't going to get that credited. He insisted he wasn't hanging up until I escalated the issue because he wasn't informed, and if I kept the call going for much longer, he was going to charge the company for his time because he was a busy man. At this point, I'd been working there long enough that if you were nice or even normal, I would try my hardest to help you. But if you were an a-hole, sorry, can't do. Get lost. Customer refuses to hang up, I can hang up. This guy though, he'd gone past being an a-hole into total see you next Tuesday waffle, and I was pissed off. I couldn't be an a-hole back, but he'd been effing around and I could make sure he found out. So I told him that, okay, since he was so insistent, I would open a claim to refund him the €1,500 bill and muted him while I opened the claim. The a-hole was again gloating at his girlfriend about how clever he was because he was going to get this bill refunded too. Meanwhile, I was copy-pasting the notes from the previous month's claim, where the rep had written, I've informed customer of roaming charges in all the countries he told me he could be visiting, list of European countries. Also, stacking discounts, very much not a thing. He had to spam the Retentions 1 call centers with calls until he got a newbie lost enough to apply another discount over his Retentions 2 account, and he had not read the terms and conditions of the accounts, but I had. Trying to defraud the company was grounds for service termination. I got the claim number, flagged down my supervisor, and told her to please send it to headquarters in the daily report so fraud could examine the account. I told the guy that the claim had been opened, but also that it was obvious he was trying to abuse the company's policies. I told him the claim had been flagged to be reviewed by fraud, and it was likely his account would be terminated. He went from entitled to worried in 2 seconds and asked me to close the claim. Sorry dude, can't do. You wanted a claim open? Now it's open. Yes, the customer was fired. Well, I guess he pushed his luck because he was, as you said, OP, effing around and you had him find out. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.